The California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce would like to thank our sponsor, Google, for today's podcast series. Google has been a strong partner with the California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce and helped make our communities stronger. Welcome to another episode of Space at the Table, where we bring together voices across the spectrum to discuss the critical issues impacting our communities and businesses today. I'm your host, Pat Von Kushida, President and CEO of the California Asian Pacific Chamber of Commerce, the largest minority chamber in California today, representing the interests of over 742,000 minority-owned businesses. Today, we're diving into a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that is really about the sustainability of our economy and our low-carbon future. As we move towards a more sustainable future, it's imperative that this transition be equitable and inclusive, ensuring that small and minority-owned businesses are not left behind. Today, it's our honor to have Assemblymember Cottie Petrie-Norris with us today to discuss how California is planning to achieve this balance. Assemblywoman Petrie-Norris is the chair of the Committee on Utilities and Energy and has been a strong advocate for environmental sustainability and equity. And she'll be sharing insights on today's current initiatives, the challenges that lie ahead, and how we can support small and minority-owned businesses through this transition. We'll explore the resources available, the role of innovation, and the importance of ensuring that all communities benefit from the shift to a greener economy. Thank you so much for joining us today, Assemblywoman.
Pat, it is such a pleasure to be here and really looking forward to our conversation today.
So, as chair of the Utility and Energy Committee, can you give us an overview of California's current energy transition plan?
Pat, this is such a pivotal moment for California. As you know, California has long been a leader in climate action, and we have some of the most ambitious climate goals in the world. By 2030, our goal is to lower California's emission 40% of 1990 levels, and by 2045, we're working to achieve a net zero energy future. And I'll tell you, these goals are important. It's also a really monumental task before us to actually deliver on those goals. So just to put it into context, for us to achieve our 2045 climate goals, we need to increase our electricity generation by 300%, and we need to increase transmission capacity by 350%. So we have got a lot of work ahead of us.
And how do you believe Californians can buy in to that vision and to those goals? What is the work that needs to occur in order for that to happen?
I think that the vast majority of Californians recognize the importance and the urgency of the climate crisis. We know that it's here. We know that it's now, and we know that it is one of the defining challenges of our generation to meet this moment and deliver. But, and I say but, we were talking about this earlier, as we work to achieve these goals, it is so important that we're balancing what I call all three legs of our energy stool. So we've got to build a future that is sustainable. Our energy supply also needs to be reliable, and it needs to be affordable. And for me, I was appointed to chair this committee in December of last year. And cost has always been front and center to me, and ensuring that we are containing costs and building an affordable future is so key. And I think it's important, such an important element, so that we keep Californians on board and that we keep Californians engaged and believing that this is a key priority.
I think that you really hit on something here. Equity and inclusion speaks to affordability, speaks to accessibility, right? speaks to adaptability. And part, I think, of the challenge and the opportunity is to educate and better educate our communities around not only those opportunities, but how they can fully participate. Here at the Chamber, what we are really leaning into is the notion that when that transformation occurs, that the opportunity to participate not only in terms of how to help propel those goals forward, but also to build the infrastructure around that. And what I love about our relationships over these years is I know how passionate you are about small business. I know how passionate you are about including those small businesses in these transformations. Is there a strategy that you foresee in the future where there's a linkage between that transformation and how we can better align our small businesses with those opportunities?
And I love your focus on opportunity. And for me, I think when we look at California's climate goals, when we look at, as I said, the monumental challenges before us, it can seem daunting. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. This is not just a huge challenge for California. It is a huge opportunity because I am a firm believer that California needs to be and can be the birthplace for the breakthroughs and the innovations that are both going to enable California to deliver on our goals and are also going to create the next chapter of economic growth and prosperity for our state. And we're laser focused on ensuring that that economic growth, those opportunities, those aren't just for big companies and name brands. We want to make sure that we're opening doors of opportunities for small businesses to succeed, to be the innovators, to be the job creators, and to help drive, as I said, this next chapter of growth and prosperity for California. And one thing that I think is really exciting is that even today, our utilities and policymakers have worked with our utilities to set goals for small business and minority-owned business procurement. And in 2022, which was the last year that the utilities reported their numbers, 30% of contracts and 30% of spending was going to these small and minority-owned businesses, totaling more than $14 billion. And so, like I said, I think it's a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity. And we want to make sure that we are working with you, with the Chamber, to optimally position California's small businesses really to take advantage of those opportunities and really to lean in.
That is so critical. It's interesting because Prop 209, which is one of the reasons why this chamber was formed, right, which did away with affirmative action in public contracting. And that was in the early 90s, late 80s that occurred. The utility industry, and because of General Order 156, said, not so fast, said, the California Public Utility Commission said, we're regulators. And if we're going to regulate this body, we are going to define for California utilities what it means for full participation for small businesses. So we are going to set a goal, right? So they set a 25% goal. And I will tell you, these utilities are best in class because it was intentional, right? And so that intentionality, we would love to work with you to see how that could be embedded in some of the opportunities as we start to build that infrastructure out here in California, because we think that's so important, right? Let's talk a little bit about how you plan on overseeing some of the policy goals that your committee is charged with in ensuring that those are delivered in the right way here in California.
Well, So as you said, I chair the Assembly's Committee on Utilities and Energy. I have a counterpart in the state Senate who chairs the Senate committee, and we are tasked with oversight of our state agencies in implementing our programs and delivering on these goals. And for me, I really have been focused on 4 priorities over the course of my first year in this role. As I said, number 1 has really been to focus on containing costs and to establish a renewed focus on affordability. Number 2 has been reliability. And, I think over the course of the last several years, there's been too many points where we either saw the lights go out in California or had too many close calls that end up costing ratepayers exorbitant amounts of money. So we've been really focused on ensuring that we've got robust and reliable plans in place to ensure that we can keep the lights on and keep the wheels turning as we're making this transition. We've also been really, really focused on ensuring that we're positioning California to access as many federal dollars as possible right now. And I think that, again, speaks to just what an important opportunity, what an exciting opportunity this is for California. So under the leadership of the Biden-Harris administration, with the IIJA and the IRA, there are hundreds of billions of dollars available to help power California's clean energy future and to help create great high-quality jobs for millions of Californians. So we want to make sure that we are getting as many of those dollars into the state as possible and as many of those dollars into the hands of our small business owners as possible. And a big piece of that, I'll say, and that's, has been our 4th priority, is ensuring that we are accelerating the pace of our clean energy transition and removing some of the obstacles in permitting, some of the obstacles in our regulatory environment so that we can get more good projects online more quickly. So those are some of the things that we're focused on. It's been a really exciting year and just really looking forward to exciting things to come.
I want to lean in a little bit to, because I do think that everything happens local. And I'm excited about the fact that when we tap into federal dollars, it flows to the states and it flows local. And we talk about the fact that embedded in those funds is the sustainability piece. Embedded in those funds are how are we going to make that transformation and at the same time ensure that everybody is at the table, right? I believe wholeheartedly the federal government believes that. I believe wholeheartedly that the state believes that. How do we get our local jurisdictions to truly understand how to better align that sustainability transformation with the utilization of their small businesses in those communities? Help me think about that.
I think that it, as with everything, it takes a team effort, and we need our federal, our leaders at a federal level, at the state level, and certainly at the local level, all working together, rowing, as we say, in the same direction. And I think, in my experience, I feel like I've been really blessed in my 6 years in office to have really strong, really, I think, productive relationships with the elected officials at our county level and at the city level. And I think what's really important is for us to engage them as partners and for us to recognize the importance of our federal goals and our state goals, but but to collaborate with them as we're looking to achieve them. And I think it's not just about the state setting mandates and requirements and pushing those down onto our local leaders. We've got to understand the challenges that they're grappling with, and we've got to help them be successful. Because I think one thing I've also seen, and I know you've seen this, sometimes we've got really well-intentioned state programs, but it can be next to impossible for small businesses to actually access those resources or navigate the programs. We create these kind of labyrinthian, very complicated requirements. And the same thing is sometimes true even for our local governments. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of our local governments feel like they are almost drowning with requirements, with mandates. And if we can sit down and understand the obstacles and really partner and to clear those obstacles with them, I think that we'll all be more successful. And so that has been my approach. And certainly when we're looking at clean energy programs, clean energy initiatives, I want to do everything possible for so that we have our local leaders recognizing what huge opportunities these are to drive local investments, local growth, local businesses. And I want to understand from them what they need to help make these programs succeed. So that conversation is really ongoing.
And your fourth pillar, really around streamlining, I think is going to help in that discussion. I think that part of what local agencies need help with is the streamlining piece. And some jurisdictions are better than others in terms of making that a priority, if you will. So I'm so excited about the way that your committee is looking at this, and how you as chair are really driving home those four policy priorities, because I think that's really is going to make a difference. Is there, one of the things that has been challenging, I think, for a lot of our small businesses, in particular our minority-owned businesses, is moving away from the current way they derive energy, right? That energy dependency on a lot of the fossil fuel, and getting to a low-carbon future. And I'll tell you, here in our local region, there was an ordinance that came out that said recently that all new build was going to be electrification, and a lot of our local restaurants took issue with that. And I think because culturally, particularly for the Asian community, we cook on gas. There's wok cooking, and so they really struggled with, how am I going to adapt to this new way of cooking? And so, to the local jurisdiction's credit, they said, well, let's do we'll do a carve out for restaurants until technology, right, catches up. And so, there's a lot of work in that area right now to see how, we can emulate wok cooking electrically, right? So is there a sense by you that California, as we start to move forward, will take a look at those types of considerations and we'll make adjustments as we go?
I'll tell you, I certainly hope so, because I think it is so important for us to have ambitious goals and for us to have audacious goals. And we've also got to be practical and we've got to be pragmatic. And I think sometimes that practicality and that pragmatism, sometimes that can get a little lost in the weeds up in Sacramento. And so I think it's just really, really important that as we push to achieve these clean energy objectives, we're doing it in a way that brings people with us. And we've got to make things practical, and I think focus on the most important aspects, but also understand that we live in the real world, and technology, we got to wait in some cases for technology to catch up with our aspirations.
Yeah. Well, and it also then also does go back to affordability too,
100%.
right? And so I love the fact that you're thinking about that approach in a holistic way because it's all interconnected, you know?
Yeah. And I'll tell you on the affordability side, we are hearing from constituents each and every day who are just really struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Right. We are confronting a cost of living crisis here in California with sky high rents,
Yeah.
Inflation, where people, thankfully it's coming down, but people are still feeling the pinch every time they go to the grocery. And utility rates have been a part of that.
Yeah.
And over the course of just the last 5 years, most households in California have seen their electricity rates go up by 50%. And that's why I've been so focused on bending that curve, because that is not sustainable for California. That is not sustainable for the folks I represent. It's not sustainable for anyone in the state. And so we're really focused on bending that curve. And we've been working with the governor's office on a package of legislation, really with kind of two goals in mind. And the first is focused on the short term. And our goal is to lower bills by $10 a month for Californians. And then looking beyond that, my goal is for us to limit the growth of our electricity rates by the rate of inflation. So bills should not be going up more than the rate of inflation. And so that's kind of been the North Star that we're oriented around. And we're working on legislative proposals to actually deliver that and deliver those savings and deliver that relief to Californians.
And I think industry is a partner in that. I think when we hear from industry, we hear that we're all in.
Yeah.
I think for them, it's more the timing around a lot of these things. But because I think that is where they're having, I think, the debate around affordability, right?
Yeah.
But I, as an elected official that you are, I am so pleased that you're talking to our industry partners as a consumer, talking to our industry partners as part of our community, because you're absolutely right. The rates are not sustainable. And sometimes it's a little opaque, right, from us about why 1 month it's this amount and then the next month is this amount. And I got to tell you, my July bill was twice as much as it was in June. And I thought, what the heck is going on? So, I'm going to lean into that one, trust me. But yeah, it just happens. And we're not quite sure, because it is opaque. And so you're not quite sure why those rates are occurring the way they are, right? So appreciate the focus on affordability. And then when we talk about affordability, are there any incentives for small businesses? Are there packages that are being thought about in terms of helping us to get to that affordability?
So there are a number of energy efficiency programs that all of our utility companies have, and there's opportunities there to help our small businesses be more energy efficient and save more money. But I will say that in some cases, again, it goes back to we've got great intentions, we've got great programs.
Yeah.
We don't always make it easy for people to connect the dots. And so one of the things that we are always looking to do is to make sure that these programs, that we do a better job of communicating about these programs and helping people understand how to access that. So if folks are listening, you can reach out to your utility and ask them, say, what are the energy efficiency programs that are available for small businesses? And would like you to send me a list of those and help me navigate that process. And they're often the program administrators and able to do that and to help folks understand where there's opportunities for savings.
Yeah, the incentives are really going to be important, particularly as we make that wholesale transition over, right? And be able to do that in steps. And Equity for us is a major concern during this transition. And so tell us, let's lean in a little bit more about equity, and let's talk about what your view is around in terms of making sure that the state looks at this in a more equitable way as we go through this transition.
We've got to make sure that as we are building California's clean energy transition, clean energy future, and making this vision a reality, that we bring everyone with us, and that no communities get left behind. And as I think I've said to you before, I think your voice, your leadership, the leadership of the Cal Asian Chamber, I think is so, so critical in this conversation. And I'll say there's a couple of examples that I think are exciting and really worth highlighting when we talk about what does equity look like and how do we ensure that no one gets left behind. And the first is related to California's solar programs and our solar incentives. So, we've had very ambitious and very successful solar programs, which have been driven by incentives that have largely been focused on rooftop solar programs on individual households. The reality is that's really only benefited folks that are single-family homeowners, and it's benefited a very small portion of the population. And what we have done is to create some equity to ensure that apartment owners, that landlords are incentivized at the same level, so that then their tenants are able to benefit from the same programs. And that wasn't always the case. And there was just a bill that moved through my committee this year to level set that playing field and ensure that, guess what? If we are offering a certain incentive to folks that are blessed enough to be able to own their single family home, we need to have an equal incentive for landlords and tenants. And another example that I think is actually really exciting is what we're seeing happening in the development of offshore wind. So we recognize that offshore wind is absolutely a critical piece of the puzzle as we look to build California's clean energy future. So offshore wind is super important because it is blowing at the time that solar is not operating.
Right.
But these are enormous, enormous projects and enormous undertakings. And I've been really excited to see the way that our offshore wind developers have recognized how important it is to engage the local community. And particularly, there's been a lot of engagement with local tribal communities in the areas where these offshore wind leases are being established and being developed. And in many cases, what we're seeing is that these developers aren't just saying, yes, we want the engagement of our local tribal leaders and communities. They're putting money and resources on the table to actually encourage and facilitate community engagement. And I think the reason for that is that they've learned from the lessons of the past where folks haven't done that and they've encountered really fierce opposition. And I think people are realizing, you know what? We are all going to be more successful if we move forward together. There's it's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far,
go together.
Go together. And I've been really excited to see, I think some of the really big players in our clean energy spaces are recognizing how important it is to engage our local leaders, to engage small businesses, to engage our tribal leadership so that we can go far together.
You have been such a breath of fresh air, Assemblywoman. I have always admired much of the work that you've done through the Jetty Committee and all of the work you've done. And you've been such a champion for us, for small business and for the things that we fight for around equity and inclusion. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you for your leadership. And would love to have you have the last word. Any final thoughts?
Well, thank you so much, Pat, for that. I have I've been blessed by the opportunity to work with you and your team, and look forward to continuing that work. I think in closing, I just really want to highlight what an exciting moment this is for California. As I said, we've got some huge challenges on our hands. And when we talk about our goals, when we talk about what we're trying to achieve, it can seem a little daunting.
Yeah.
But what I really want people to take away is that this is a tremendous opportunity. Mm-hmm. California, we have been the birthplace for the breakthroughs and the innovations that have shaped the modern world, from cutting edge technology to innovations in biotech and the life sciences. Mm-hmm. And when we think about California's clean energy future, when we think about our global clean energy future, I want California to be the birthplace for the breakthroughs and the innovations that are going to make that a reality, that are going to create great jobs for California, and are really going to supercharge the next chapter of California's economic growth. So I want people to feel excited, and I want people to be part of making that future a reality.
Well, I'm excited just listening to you. And, that's what California is all about, innovation, right? And leaning in towards a brighter future. So thank you so much, Assemblywoman. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.